Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today we're going to be doing a make up your mind. So I actually got a few DMs over on Instagram that this new palette was being launched by Huda Beauty. It took me a minute to get my make up your mind done, but I'm here. I put it all together for you guys, and I looked through my entire collection to try to mimic the color story of the brand new Huda Beauty Love Fest palette. So this is a brand new launch from Huda Beauty. Really interesting color story. I feel like it goes within the vibe Love Fest, like it kind of looks like it, right? So it's reminding me of a palette. And it's funny because right when I saw this, I said, oh, this looks like a very similar palette that I have seen before. So the palette is retailing right now for $29 US at Sephora. It's already launched, and I was very interested in seeing if I already own it because I'll be honest, right when I saw the image, I went, why does this look so similar to me? And yeah, you will see why. There is a palette that looks so similar in my collection that if you guys own, you probably have something so similar. So anyways, that's what we do in these type of videos. If you guys like this kind of concept or this kind of video, don't forget to hit subscribe because I do it every time a new launch comes out that is interesting. I try to find it in my collection, basically try to mimic the color story to see if it's something I even want to pick up. Do I own a lot of palettes with this color story? Is it a color story I never use? So even like today, I created an eye look today with a certain palette that I believe is very similar, using similar colors that I found in my collection. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So first things first, let me go ahead and show you guys what I came up with. So this is the result. I have to say, I believe that this is so close. There is some that are probably not perfect in this one, but I just saw this palette and I thought of a specific palette and I tried my best to just stay within that palette, and I really think I was able to mimic this color story so well using one specific palette, which I am going to show you guys right now because I keep telling you, and I haven't shown you yet, but it is Pumpkin Spice from Too Faced. Look at this. This palette right here is creating such a similar concept. You will see in this video. I also jumped into only one shade, believe it or not, from the Natasha Denona Lila palette because I also thought Lila was really ringing a bell. It looked very similar to me. And then finally just one little tiny shade I pulled from the new mini bronze from Natasha. So these are the three palettes that I dived into to mimic this color story. But there is a dominant palette, and it is Pumpkin Spice. So let's go ahead and let's start it off. I'll show you guys how I got the very first color. So for the very first color, what I did was I jumped into Pumpkin Spice. So you see this color up here called Fall For It. It's a little bit too peachy, but the color looks a little peachy. So what I did was I mixed Fall For It and A La Mode. So if you mix these two together, so you grab one and then you grab the other and put it on top, I believe that these two mixed together create a really similar look, like a really similar color. So we just gotta mix them until you come up with a shade that you believe is close enough. Like that looks very close to me. And I really do think that that is basically the color. So tweaking that color just a little bit, you basically have the same exact color. For the next one, I jumped into Spice Spice Baby, which is right here. It's kind of like an orangey brown, which I believe is kind of like a dominant little color in this palette. There's like an orangey brown theme, which is why I considered pumpkin spicy kind of idea, because it reminded me of like this kind of color theme, you know, like that almost fall kind of vibe. So the next one I jumped into Wanna Peace. So you see how I'm staying in this palette, and Wanna Peace is like a lilac-y color, but it's like a lighter lilac. It has a little bit of a lighter base to it. It kind of reminds me a lot, like this looks so similar. So for the next one, I mixed two colors, staying in this palette. Like I said, I really wanted to use this palette. What I did was I grabbed the color Pumpkin Spice right up here and mixed it with Spice Spice Baby. So these two right here. So grabbing a little bit of each one. So grab Spice Spice Baby and then mixing Pumpkin Spice on top to just give it a little bit more of like that orangey tone. Of course, the more you mix them, and a little bit more of the Pumpkin Spice, because it does have a little bit more of like an orangey hint, but it's not extremely orange, you know? So that's why putting the brown with it kind of like makes it a little bit more brownish orange, and it reminds me of that color. So that looks very similar. Same palette. If we jump into PSL and Chill, which is a more deeper purple with a nice little metallic, looks Looks very similar to this color. Yeah, I think it's gonna be very close to this. So it's gonna be that kind of tone. So this one's a little lighter and this one's a little deeper, which is so funny that this palette actually has two metallic purples, which the new palette from Huda has like almost the same metallic purples. Really weird. Then is where I'm going to, oops, drop everything. No. I'm gonna jump into Mini Natasha. So this is the mini bronze, and this is where I just grabbed this color right here. So this is such a basic color to have to like pull from another palette, but the pumpkin spice didn't have anything like this. This is just like a regular base tone, not really like impactful, kind of like the color of your skin tone. Looks very similar to what they're including in this new palette. I think it's going to be something similar to this. There's a lot of palettes that have like different variations of this kind of like skin tone blending shade. So now going into another palette. So here's where things change up a little bit. I went into the Lila palette from Natasha, and I went into this color right here. So this is another purpley metallic, and it's another shade of purpley metallic. This one's a darker one, but it has a little bit more of like a rugged tone to it. On camera they look a little bit more close in tone, but in person they're actually not that close. Like they have a little bit of a different undertone. So I'm thinking it's gonna be something like that, a little bit more of like a ruggedy purpley metallic. Then for the next one, we're going back into like that orangey brown idea. So I went into Ginger Spice, which is the orange, and I put this one down, but it had to have a little bit more brown in it because it does have like that very nice orange tone, but it also has a little bit of brown. So I also mixed into it Spice Spice Baby, which is this one, which is a little bit more, you know, brownish tone. So I'm just adding a little bit of that to it and then blending them together. And that's how I created like that orangey brown color, which looks very similar. And then finally, same palette, Spice of Life, which is like a deep purpley brown. It's such a cool color. I really like this color in this palette. And that is the color I used for that. And I think that one is like pretty identical, I believe, to what's going to be in the new Huda palette. And that is how I mimicked the color story. If you guys can see, I basically used one palette. So for most of these colors, Pumpkin Spice really from Too Faced gave me almost every color. Now the interesting thing is this is no longer available because Too Faced comes out with new versions of this every single year. So if you would have purchased this one, I believe it was 2 years ago, I could be wrong, but I think it was 2 years ago, then you have a palette that literally is identical. Like for me, this is identical. But a lot of people love this palette and you can't buy it anymore. So this is literally identical. Huda Beauty has a really nice formula as well. So I actually think that this is a really nice palette, which is funny because considering that there's a lot of purples that look alike and, you know, like the colors itself, you know, it's interesting, but it's not like something I would usually gravitate to. But I remember when I got Pumpkin Spice, I really liked this palette. Granted, there is a lot more that you can do with this palette because you can go in the green direction, you can go in, you know, like the purple, the pinks, the orange, like there's a lot more you can do with this palette than this one. Like this one's basically going to create this kind of eye look all the time. Different shade of purple metallic, but you're going to be using the orangey as the bases, you know, like it's basically going to be like that kind of look, or you're going to be doing like a smoky gradient eye with the warm purples with the orange and doing like more of like that very fall smoky eye look. That's going to be the looks you're getting with this, okay? I think it's I actually think it's a really pretty color story. It's going to be cohesive. It's going to be really nice for fall, but I don't know if everybody's going to love the looks. I feel like it's more of a vampy palette. You're going to be doing a little bit more drama with the eyes. It's going to be very hard to do like day looks with it, especially from what I see here. You also have to really like to wear metallic purple on your lids because it looks like, from what I gather, most of the metallics are purple, right? Or all the metallics are purple. That's what it looks like to me. So if you don't like purple metallics, this is not the palette for you. But other than that, I actually do think that there's portions of this palette that are gorgeous, and I actually do like this. But I'm going to make up my mind and say, no, I am not picking this up because I feel so strongly that I can create every single look that I can create with this from the Pumpkin Spice. And the Pumpkin Spice needs to be used by me. I really need to use this palette a lot more. So even though it's really pretty, I think it's a pretty concept, and I think that anybody who doesn't have Pumpkin Spice would probably really enjoy it. For me, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I should actually be pulling that palette out and using it a few more times before it expires. So that is going to be my Make Up Your Mind for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below how many of you guys own the pumpkin spice, and did you see the same thing as me when you saw this palette launched? Did you automatically think of the pumpkin spice? Let me know that down below. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.